Hi you guys, this is Rachel Kirkland, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video. If you are new to my channel, like always, I suggest that you check out my website. It's themodernshaman.net, and honestly it just has a lot of resources that are helpful if you are on your ascension journey, if you are studying to be a shaman or remembering more so your shamanic roots and your ancient, just kind of native, sacred, intuitive arts awareness. There's a lot of information as far as my teaching modules, as far as sessions, so you can connect with me one-on-one, available on the website. And always, if you want to send in your questions, that's where you do it. I get people that ask me that all the time. So go to the website, fill out the contact form, and it will get your question in the queue for these videos. All right, so here's the one for today. It says, "Hi Rachel, can you speak about projections, reflections, mirror neurons, and knowing when and how to discern my soul lessons, i.e. the things that I need to work on and look at and reflect, versus when I'm taking on someone else's projection and only reflecting what they need to work on? Does this make sense?" Yes, it does. How do we become more aware of our blind spots with gentleness, ease, grace, and compassion? Great question. You guys always send in good questions. Okay, maybe let's talk about some of those terms first, right? Because some of those terms are kind of like psychological terms, or yeah. So when we talk about, and she's asking about the first thing, projections. She said, when you speak about, can you speak about projections? So projections, that's a psychological term for when we are projecting our own feelings on someone else as if it's them and not us. And a common example of this would be when someone is saying something and it's hurting our feelings, instead of saying, "Oh, hey, what you're saying is really hurting my feelings. It's really hurting me." We would say, "Hey, you're a mean person." So I'm projecting my hurt as if it's you and your problem instead of me and my emotions. Do you see the difference? It's like all you, and you're just a bad person, and you're mean, and you're hurtful. This is you, and it's on you, and all the energy is on you, versus I'm feeling hurt. So that's a projection of the energy. So that's one term you used. Another one is reflection. So reflection is when like things that are in you or a part of your experience, you see and you hate. That's the common one, that we see and we despise it in other people. If you've ever heard that saying, that the things that we despise the most in others are actually the things that we dislike the most about ourselves. That is a perfect explanation of a reflection and the psychological process of reflecting on someone else or being someone else's reflection and serving in that way. And then the last thing that you mentioned is mirror neurons. So that's more of a neurological process that happens. And if you are familiar with any sort of like manifestation technique or visualization technique, oftentimes they talk about this, about how the mirror neurons work. Mirror neurons. That's like a tongue twister. I have to say it very slow. So mirror neurons are the neurological process in the body where our neurological function and the emotions that come with those functions respond the same to something that we are seeing as something we are doing. Like the mind doesn't know the difference, right? And so our body process, this is a lot of times, like I said, how they teach you to visualize, because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that you are literally doing and something you are visualizing yourself doing, or something you are observing someone else doing. And so the neurological process, or the emotional response, and remember our neurological process will release hormones, it will get into our endocrine system, it will get into our nervous system, it impacts everything. All right. This is why it's so powerful. Like when we're watching a horror movie, the brain doesn't know the difference. And so this is oftentimes why we have to tell ourselves, or you'll hear yourself saying, it's just a movie. It's not real. Because the response of our neurological system is a mirror. It's a mirror neuron. It has a mirrored neurological response. So it doesn't know the difference. It just responds. So that being said, it is a powerful technique when you use it to visualize something you want, right? Because the brain doesn't know the difference and it really happening to you versus you visualizing it happening. It's the same neurological response. A lot of Olympic athletes practice this. A lot of, you'll hear these really intense visualization exercises for elite athletes and things like this. They're using the mirror neurons in the body and this process to kind of be a little trick to get something and to make the body respond from the muscular system to like make those muscles fire up just as you would if you're running the race or doing whatever it is that you're practicing or wanting to manifest that dream house or whatnot, that the body responds in the same way. And so they utilize that mirror neuron process. So there's some just terms that you mentioned that I feel like for those that are watching, they're like, what in the heck is she talking about? Or maybe you're unfamiliar with those terms. Let's get that cleared, all right? And now I'm going to get to the basis of your question. So, which is, how do you know or how do you discern when you are working on soul lessons that you need to work on versus when you're taking on someone else's projection? When you're taking on something that they are needing to work on or that they are projecting on you, saying, this is your lesson, or this is what you're supposed to be about, or this is your identity, or you're the mean person, or whatever. In that example that I used earlier. How do you know the difference? So the main way that I will respond is by, in that moment, you can ask yourself that question. Just like I shared with mirror man, that's going to trip me up every time. Mirror neurons. You just can't sound very intelligent when you're saying something and you just keep tripping up on it. Sorry, you guys. But it's the same process that I said when you're watching a scary movie and you have to tell yourself and tell your own mind, like, it's just a movie or this is not real. It's like you have to retrain the brain because it's reacting in a manner that neurologically is the same as if it was real. So this practice can be used as well in relational experiences in the psychological realm. So when something comes up and you're dealing with a soul issue where you're like, this is a serious life lesson, in that moment, ask yourself, is this my life lesson and my soul's growth that I'm taking on, or is it someone else's projection? And sit with that for a moment. You'll feel a very clear, delineated response. Like it will either feel like it's about you or maybe it's both. And sometimes it is. It's not like yes or no, or it's not mutually exclusive. Like it's only mine, it's only yours. A lot of times there are things to glean from that ripe soil of psychological processes and relational journeys. There's so much richness in our relationship evolution on this earth, and that's why relationships are so pivotal for our learning and our soul development in our human experience on this earth. They're used more than anything else to teach us that life lesson or those soul growth. So oftentimes when you're in that moment, it really helps to ask yourself that question. Is this for me? And I teach this too when I work with empaths, and they can't tell whose energy and emotions is their energy and emotions or someone else's. When they're out and about in the grocery store and they're suddenly feeling like volatile or vulnerable, I teach them to simply stop for a second and ask themselves, is this my energy and my emotion, or is it someone else's? It's just that simple. But oftentimes we don't do that. We move straight to a neurological response. We have that or emotional response, and we move straight through that trigger instead of stopping ourselves and asking that just simple question, is this my lesson, or is this a projection of someone else's? Is this my energy, my emotion, or is this someone else's, right? Or is it somewhere in between? If you get a muddled response and you're like, why are you confusing me, Spirit? I don't understand what you're saying. It's probably because it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little of both. That's also a very clear response. So don't confuse yourself when the response is a muddled response. That means there's a little bit of you in there and a little bit of them in there. And so you can do a follow-up or a secondary question to that, which I would advise you to do, which is, what part of this is my soul lesson? And sit. And a lot of times we know, jealousy. Yeah, here it is. Got to work on that one. Or control. Oh man, I just wish I could control this situation. Whatever it is, you'll know what is yours. And then what is theirs? Standing up for themselves, speaking. You'll be able to feel and delineate those out. But you've got to ask the questions and then sit in a reflective manner. By reflective, I just mean self-reflection, right? Sit in an inquisitive manner where you're listening intently and you're listening with your heart, not just your head, right? Not just what makes sense. Like you're opening yourself in this space. It's like, I want to receive answers. What is true here? What is my takeaway? So that's my first kind of piece of advice to you. I'm looking at your second question, which is, how do we become more aware of our blind spots with gentleness, ease, and grace? Really, this is self-reflection also. How do we become more aware of our blind spots? There's humor in that because honestly, Spirit's not going to let it go, right? You're going to, if you have something and it's coming up, Spirit's just going, boop, I'm just going to keep putting this relational issue in your face with every single person you're in a relationship with for the rest of your life until you see it. That is just the persistency and consistency of Spirit. It's a vibrational response. Like it's just sending out that frequency. So everybody that you're interacting with is going to teach you that lesson if you haven't looked and done some self-reflection on what that lesson is. And you haven't asked, all right, Spirit, what's in this anger for me? Why do I keep getting so freaking angry every time that happens? It's the self-processing. And so you can become aware of your blind spots by asking Spirit, what are my blind spots? Show those to me right now. Show those to me clearly. If you have a way of communicating with Spirit through yes or no, through pendulums, through just direct clairaudience, through channeling, through vision, through dream work, any way that you connect with Spirit, you can ask them to speak to you and show you your blind spots. This is that Bible verse that says, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be opened. Like if you have a heart that says, Spirit, show me what I'm supposed to be working on. I want to know. I want this life to freaking count. I want to do the work. I'm here. I am showing up and I am acting in these relationships and I want to do it right. This is my heart. Like, know me, show me. If you have that sincere desire, Spirit will answer you. Spirit will open that door. And you will find, it will come to you, it will come flooding in with the same energetic equivalency that you are seeking. So if it matters to you, it will matter on the other side to Spirit, and they will answer you in the same level of sincerity. If it doesn't matter to you, then Spirit answers in that same level of sincerity. It's an energetic equivalent. Just like attracts like. It's just that magnetic current of energy, right? So I guess my last piece of advice is to ask them to show you with a level of sincerity that you want them to show, that you want them to answer back to you in. And then that part of the ease and grace and gentleness and compassion is just to know, like, I love the phrase, it's okay. As simple as that sounds, it's so ease-inducing. It's okay. It's okay, honey. It's okay. I can't tell you how often I hear Spirit say that in session to people. Or they're petting them like a cat. I get that often for clairsentient people who receive the sensation of energy. I almost feel like Spirit's like this, like just like petting them like you would pet a little kitty. It's just like so calming, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So have a practice of ease or a mantra of ease or a physical, like when I say practice, I mean like walking or yin yoga or swimming, something that's not arduous, that's not aggressive or yang energy or masculine energy. It's not building that testosterone, but it's just soft and nurturing like the mother. where she just says, I'm going to take care of you, honey. It's all okay. It's all okay. And that's that great grace that we can give ourselves and offer for ourselves. So I would have a sense of mantra to keep coming back to. And sometimes we need a break, you know, give yourselves a break when we're working through lesson and lesson and lesson, and it's just like our face is on the concrete all the time. If you need a break, you have a break. You're eternal, right? You're not on some time clock. You're eternal. And we're going to keep learning and keep growing and keep enjoying the relational process and what that looks like. So that's my bit of advice to you on this process, and just the fact that you're asking the question. You're on the right path, Mama. Many blessings to you all. Mwah! I'll be back here next week with another video.